This is a Tallahassee update from the Florida Retail Federation.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And you know, I started selling things when I was 7 years old. I sold TV guides. None of you remember this, but TV guides used to be sold door to door. And I had a route of 50, and they would give them to me. And I think the deal was they sold them to me for 11 cents, and I got 15 cents. Nobody paid in advance. And think about it, you would never get to do these things today. Because I did it after school. I'd walk around this neighborhood, because I wanted to get my 15 cents, because I didn't want to lose money, because you had to pay up front for the darn things. And your parents would never let your kids do that. I mean, I sold, when I was in Boy Scouts, to go to Boy Scout camp, I sold light bulbs, candy, everything you can imagine. And I've worked in gas stations, amusement parks, grocery stores. I worked in grocery stores a long time. But I love to figure out why people buy things. Because that's America. I mean, America is built on entrepreneurship, built on selling things, building things, manufacturing things. So I ran my campaign on getting our state back to work. Like probably many of you, you grew up in an environment where you had to work, and it was great to work. You liked working. I loved getting my first paycheck. Oh, I loved my first job where I got a real paycheck, not just somebody paying me. I worked 52 hours at a hamburger stand for 85 cents an hour, and I thought I was rich. I'd never seen $32 before in my life. I should have kept that check. So I ran on a campaign to get our state back to work. If you think about where we were, the 4 years before I became governor, we had lost 825,000 jobs. Unemployment had gone from 3.5 to 11.1%. State debt had increased by $5.2 billion. The housing market had collapsed. And if you looked at all the sort of the surveys about, was Florida a good place to do business? It was going down. It wasn't moving up. So we cut property taxes. We cut the business tax. We cut 2,300 regulations. We streamlined the permitting process. I brought in people who run agencies to say, I like business people. We got rid of the Department of Community Affairs. When I was running, I said that I wanted to get rid of that agency. Nobody was against it. I met 2 people finally after I got elected that were against it. They worked there. I'll tell you a story how we were treating business though. Have any of you been to the villages? Okay, in the villages. So I went to see Gary Morris. I was running to raise money, and he had an aerial map of all the villages and the land around the villages. And I said, how much land do you have now? He says, I have enough land to have 104,000 people live here. We have about 81,000 now. And so he said, in 4 years we'll run out of land. I said, well, look at all that vacant land. Why don't you buy more? He said, well, if I buy more, then I have to go back to the Department of Community Affairs, and they'll look at everything. And even though everything's been approved, they'll review everything again. So it'll just be too much hassle. I'll stop. That's probably the most successful real estate development in the country. I started with no money, started with a trailer park 30 years ago. Why would we do that to ourselves? But take, whether you look at the permitting time out of the DBPR, look at permitting time out of DEP, and just look at the attitude that we had. We were not a pro-business place, or we were becoming less so. So we've changed that. We've had now the second biggest drop in unemployment in the country. We've generated around 200,000 private sector jobs. The number of people on unemployment in the state has gone from like 568,000 to about 270,000. Our workforce boards are filling 40 to 50,000 jobs each and every month. If you talk to people, tourism, record 89 million tourists. Exports are up 18%. Home prices are up. Home sales are up. New home construction's up 50%. You can look now, whether you like all the competition, you've got new competitors coming into the state all the time. I mean, we have all the existing players expanding in our state, but we've got new players coming in. And so our state's back to work. Now, we're not done. I mean, we have to fight this every day. We have to say, what tax can we get rid of that we don't need? How can we drive down the size of government? How can we, make it easier to get into business? How can we make it faster to get a permit? How can we say, how do we make it easy for you to comply? Because you want to comply with laws. Don't be passing laws that don't make any sense. So that's the goal. The goal is that every family in the state can get a job. Every family in the state, their child can get a great education. If we do that, then just like I've had the opportunity to live the American dream, every person lives in our state. And we will grow rapidly. You'll have a lot of comp dances, as Chico's has. So thank you for being here, but thanks for what you're doing. You're building jobs. I'm going to do everything I can to be helpful. If you have any ideas, let me know. Some of you I see more often than I see some of the others, but anything I can do to be helpful to get more jobs in the state, I'm going to do it, and you're doing it every day. So thanks a lot. I'll try to answer any questions, but thanks for being. First off, it's important to be in Tallahassee. Any of you that don't come up here on a regular basis and let your House member, let your Senate member know that what your beliefs are, you're making a mistake. I mean, there's about 300 bills passed a year. 300 bills. I know you like all of them. I'll tell you a funny story. When 3 years ago I was involved in the healthcare debate, because I believe in the free market, and I invited a guy by the name of Daniel Hannan, who is a member of the European Parliament over, and he was telling me a story. He was going to give a talk about the importance of America and our stand up for freedom and all these things. And so he started. He was telling me about running for office. He said, when I ran for re-election, my opponent started running an ad that said, Daniel Hannan has never sponsored a bill. Now, if you stop and think about it, how many of you would support a representative or senator that had never sponsored a bill? Your first reaction is, well, of course not. But then you say, well, what's the bill I like? So if you really stop and think about it, what we've got to support are the people that do the right things. It might be sometimes passing a bill, but it might be we get a lot bigger benefit out of getting rid of regulations, getting rid of laws that don't make any sense, make sure we have a level playing field and things like that. It won't happen if you're not active. It won't happen. I mean, you can, think about our state reps and state senators. They're great people. Have they lived your life? Do they understand retail? Do they understand your issues? If you're not up here, if you're not talking to them all the time, your issues won't be dealt with. I try to always make sure everybody understands that there's 3 branches of government. I don't get to pass any laws. I do get to veto things. I do get to propose things. So your involvement up here is very, very important. What y'all do when you give people jobs is just so rewarding to people. So thanks for what you're doing. If I can do anything to be helpful to you, let me know. I was very specific what I ran on. If you think I'm blinking, call me. But I believe in every Florida family should have access to a good job and access to education system for their kids. Have a great night. Bye-bye.